And a happy Friday. Not so happy if you're a fan of the New York Mets right now, but, we still are in a playoff spot, and that's what you have to look forward to. Going into the final weekend, I think we all need this All-Star break. I think for our mental health, for our well-being, for our social life, I try to schedule meeting up with people. It's like the Mets are on. I can't. So you got 4 days because, listen, I don't care about watching the All-Star game. I'll be serious. I like going. I went and covered it in L.A. a couple years ago. It was one of the best times of my life. I'm not going to be there in Atlanta. I could live without watching the Derby All-Star. I could watch it back. I mean, I might use those 4 nights of baseball free to get mentally composed for the second half. And I know Ashley WENSKOSKI is going to do the same. She hosts the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. Ashley, did I fuck up your name or did I get it right?
No, you nailed it. You got it right. Really, you just said the name of our podcast and really has me thinking about how appropriate that is right now. Why am I a Mets fan these last few weeks?
It's a question you ask yourself every day before you go to bed. You read a bedtime story. You pray to the Lord above that the Mets are going to win the next day. And then you say, why did I do this? Why am I a Mets fan? So check out her podcast, Samantha Cross, and she also is a reporter in Syracuse at CNY Central. And, Syracuse has been a big topic here with Brandon Sproat with his 3rd straight scoreless outing. This is a guy who has been brutal for the most part of this season, but has turned it around at a time where it's interesting not just for himself, but in trades. Because I got to imagine now he's pitching at his best, Ashley, and the trade deadline is 20 days away. We're thinking to ourselves, all right, we know McLean's been lighting it up, and you've got to see him. I'd love your thoughts on McLean. But also Sproat, those are the 2 names, along with Jonah Tong, the big 3, but Tong's not a AAA yet, that we're thinking about, all right, are they going to get a chance to get called up, or are they getting dealt before July 31st?
Yeah, Sproat's been awesome over his last 3 starts. Like you said, it was his 3rd scoreless yesterday. He's had like 18 strikeouts over 18 innings pitched. So it hasn't even been just 3 good starts. It's been 3 really dominant starts. And I think to see that from him has been great because he's a guy, even in post-game interviews, when you talk to him down here, like I think he struggled with his confidence when he got called up last year and even the beginning parts of this year when things weren't going so well. So to see him seemingly turn a corner, right? He's not going to have scoreless outings forever, but even just for his confidence, that's been really a great thing to see. I don't know if the Mets would move Sproat. I mean, I think if you look at the Mets right now and look at the starting rotation and kind of some holes and some gaps that we've seen throwing bullpen games here along the way in June and July, I hope they would hesitate to move a guy like Sproat just for like that organizational depth, because it seems like if you got pitching holes, maybe don't let your number 1 pitching prospect go. McLean's been awesome too. I think he has like a 2.52 ERA. He's been really dominant as well. And McLean, a guy who, at least for some people, I think took them by surprise this spring.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, teams want pitching. Like, if you're going to the A's and you're asking maybe, I've brought it up. No one else has Shea Langoliers because I think this team has to address catcher. And I worry that they're not going to. Alvarez is a guy who's down there in AAA we got to see. He's been fine there. But, again, we've seen guys be great at AAA and come up and go back to their old bad ways. I don't know about Alvarez. And right now it's an automatic out with Torrens and Sanger. As great as they've been throwing guys out, Torrens is automatic throwing guys out. You need more than a guy that can throw guys out. You need a guy that can hit the baseball, because out of that, especially if Luis Torrens is hitting 7th and he's hitting for no power, he hits an occasional single, it's an automatic out. Teams are going to ask for this pro. Now, I think Tong should be untouchable. Just his delivery, the strikeout numbers are just almost not real. I mean, they're video game numbers. I look at him as an untouchable. I don't think the Mets are going to have to view, Sproat and McLean as untouchables, because those are the first names outside of Ronnie Mauricio that teams are going to ask for.
That's true. You have to give a little to get a little, right? And obviously the Mets, like you said, they need some catching help. They need help in a few areas, pitching among them. But I think you look at this team every night and you think this team could use a bat, right? Like as weird as that is to say, because at the beginning of the year, you go into this and it's like, oh, the big, top 4, top 5 at the top of that lineup with Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, 6 through 9, 7 through 9 on some nights have really not been producing the way that you'd like. And it'll be an interesting discussion, like you mentioned, to see if, I don't know, have the Mets officially, I guess, given up or turned that corner on moving on from Francisco Alvarez? I'm not sure to say quite that yet, but I mean, you got to think Alvarez, former number one prospect in baseball, that's a guy who they looked at as a cornerstone of the lineup and as their future generational catcher. I'm not sure they're looking at him in that same way anymore, particularly when he's down here in Syracuse.
And why not have two? Why not two?
Right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger said it in Jingle All the Way. He got two. He got two. When he got two Turbo Mans. Well, why not have two catcher Turbo Mans? Great movie. I know like every line of that movie. Might be before your time, Jingle All the Way.
Probably, yes.
Arguably my favorite Christmas movie of all time, but I know every line. Anyways, I could do a whole Mets daily on Jingle All the Way. Sinbad, you got Arnold. But he got two, and the Mets may need two catchers. Like, Alvarez just might not be an everyday guy, and there's nothing really that wrong with that, but he's just not right now. And, throughout his career, like, he had the 1 year with power. That's why Langoliers, to me, intrigues me. He hits 25-plus homers every year. He'll hit 240. You just need him to hit with power. Like, at this point, they need extra base hits, and he'll give you some of that. And the A's have 3 to 4 other catchers in their system, so the A's have plentiful catchers and no pitching. I mean, they're starting J.P. Sears and Spence and all these bums, and they're getting ready to trade Severino. They got no starting pitching. So I think that's a match made in heaven. You take Severino's contract, you give us Langoliers, we give you Sproat, maybe we give you Santucci, and Santucci's another name rising up the ranks, another pitcher, and you give another prospect. But to me, Tong and Mauricio are untouchables. I think Benj is becoming an untouchable. Benj is your PCA. He's going to be the one that you say, oh, he got away. And, that Javier Baez deal, and everyone rips the Mets for that deal. Baez was great for the Mets those last 2 months. Yes, they missed the playoffs. Yes, he had the thumbs down thing. But Baez was good for the Mets in those 2 months. PCA just turned out to be a star, and they missed on that. And I think I worry about that with Ben. You're watching Mets Daily. Her Twitter is Ashley Wensk TV. Mine is Jake Brown Radio on all social media. Make sure you smash that thumbs up on the video. Subscribe below. Click that join button. Become a Mets Daily Insider. Exclusive video coming this weekend, every weekend. Giveaway starting this month. I might just give away this Mark Vientos bobblehead behind me because he doesn't deserve to have a bobblehead right now. How about Mark Vientos? Because this is a conundrum with him. Like, this is a guy who they call him Swaggy V. The ladies love him. I don't think I don't like men, but he's not the greatest looking guy, but he's got swag. He's got aura to him. And he got he got humbled. He said I got humbled. And I think he is a bit cocky, a little bit arrogant. He's come to the plate this year and he's shit the bed. And, to put it nicely, and he's not doing anything to help this team. Now, I know he had a couple hits in the doubleheader, fine. But overall, he's sucked and his defense has sucked. That the Mets are in a weird spot because, yeah, you could say, oh, let's trade him. Well, his value is so low. Why would you trade him now? Maybe see the next couple months if he does something, but you can't actually keep putting him out there if he's going to suck. The other side of the issue is Jesse Winker got hurt again yesterday. Starling Marte just went to the IL. Both your DH options are now hurt, that you're almost in a position that you have to play Vientos and maybe get his stock back up here in the next 3 weeks. Not much time with the deadline. You got 10, 12 games. 13 games for him to prove himself, but what the hell do you do with Mark Vientos?
Yeah, I would agree with you that now, obviously, it seems like his trade value would be at the lowest that it's really ever been. I mean, I mentioned confidence earlier with Sproat. Like you said, Vientos has never been a guy who really lacked confidence. We've seen that numerous times. He comes up last year, the whole Swaggy V nickname. He pretty much produces right away and then is producing in the thick of a playoff race last year in the NLCS and whatnot. But I don't know where that's gone this year. I mean, he seems like a guy who really is, obviously, the stats say it, lost at the plate. He seems like he's going up there every night, and he has no idea what's going on. Now, there's sophomore slumps. We've seen guys, right? We've seen multiple stars in this league go on to be multi-time all-stars, whatever. Survive a sophomore slump. They call it that for a reason.
Corbin Carroll. Yep.
Right. But Mark Vientos right now just to me looks completely lost. And I agree with you. If you're the Mets and you sort of have this, wealth of guys that you're trying to get a look at in your infield, right? Brett Beatty's still on the team. Acuna's back up. Mauricio, like you said. What do you do with Vientos when you got to play him, but, he's not producing?
I think Ronnie Mauricio of the 4 is the most talented. I think he has the most promise. One of these guys is getting traded before July. They're not, all 4 will not be in the Mets organization. I would put money on that. I just would be stunned. At first I thought it was Beatty, but now I've seen Vientos' defense falter. I've seen them, call Acuna down now. I read that was a roster manipulation. If he were to stay in the minor leagues one more day, I read it was something with he would lose his option, and that option's valuable if they do trade him. So that was part of it. A lot of people were like, why would you call Acuna as the 27th man? Well, what was that all about? It was a roster manipulation move. Jankowski obviously hasn't really played, so if Acuna and McNeil can both play outfield, you don't need Jankowski on the roster. So, but it was a roster. But there was one guy on Twitter who I follows me who mentioned it, but that was a big reason why Acuna was up yesterday. But I don't know who's, it's a musical chairs with these infielders and these prospects. And, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe Beatty doesn't go just because he plays good defense. Although he made an error yesterday. It's like every time I tout Beatty for his defense, Ashley, he makes a stupid error that pisses me off. And it's like, he's a solid defender, but I think a lot of people were raving. He's a Gold Glover. He's incredible. He still makes the simple error that like Vientos will make.
Yeah, I think, it's okay to sit here as a Mets fan right now. And this is something that we mentioned on our podcast either last week or the week before. Like, it's okay if you're a Mets fan to look at what's going on in specific with, those four. Mauricio, we haven't seen quite enough yet to make a judgment. And then Alvarez, and say, what is going on here in the bigger picture, development wise, with these guys when they're coming up to the big leagues, right? You can look at Beatty, Mauricio, Acuna, Alvarez, Vientos, and say, really, have any of these guys panned out to the level that they were touted, that the level that anyone thought? And obviously, that's always the risk with prospects, right? You can, like in Alvarez's case, be the best prospect in baseball and not amount to much. But I think when you look at now all of these position players in the Mets organization kind of floundering in the big leagues, it's okay and it's fair to ask that question, why is this happening?
And you also ask what's happening with why do we keep shuffling out these guys and not giving McLean Sproat a shot? You got four infield prospects, but you can't get one of these pitchers up. And now that question, is you can't really put it out there now because tonight you get Kodai Senga back. On Sunday, Sean Manaea will piggyback Clay Holmes, which is another talking about point that I mentioned. Clay Holmes is not going to be in this rotation the rest of the year. He's just in it. His arm's going to fall off. So at some point, late August, sometime September, Holmes is out, and that's more and more why you need to get a starting pitcher. Now, I just don't. Now I get it. You don't want to give a guy a spot start, call him down, mess up his development, start his clock early. To me, the start the clock early thing, Ashley, is a Wilpon thing. Like, if he's going to be part of your team, who cares if you're starting his clock early? You can afford to pay him if he performs. So I get it's smart, but to me, that's a small town kind of thing. That's a Milwaukee thing to do with some of these pitchers. Let's throw Waddell. Waddell's been okay, but he wasn't great yesterday. Well, let's throw Waddell. Let's throw Hagenman. And no offense to these guys, but they're not major league starting pitchers. And guess what? A Mets fan will perfectly accept Brandon Sproat coming up here and giving up 7 runs. We'll say, you know what? You gave it a try. It didn't work. And if he's got to call back down, if he doesn't have the cojones to go back down and work on his stuff and one start's going to ruin him, then he shouldn't be in your system. Like, one start should not ruin a kid's. If they have the utmost confidence in themselves, they got confidence in the Hefner pitching lab, this coaching staff, one start coming up here and getting rocked shouldn't knock them off the walls and make their career ruined. That's where I don't understand, where it's like, we don't want to give him a spot start. What if he works and you say to yourself, hey, we could get rid of Paul Blackburn. We could move Frankie Montas to the bullpen. It's not an issue if a guy comes up and is good and you keep him in there because clearly not everyone else is doing good. You're going to lose Holmes. Blackburn, you're going to cut. Montas, I don't think last. You're going to have another injury. There's going to be a spot that opens up. And then if you want to go 6-man, and I know I'm rambling here, but I'm fired up about it. If you want to go 6-man rotation, then there's very much a spot that opens up. So every other team we're seeing, this guy called the Astros, called up their number 1 pitching prospect. This team, the Rays. Why aren't the Mets doing it?
Yeah, I think it's so frustrating, right? You're fired up, but I think every Mets fan is fired up. It's one thing to say, all right, in one turn through the rotation, we're going to throw Brandon Waddell out there. We're going to let Justin Hageman have a spot start. I mean, this has been going on for you can correct me if I'm wrong, but damn near a month we've been having this. And I know it's been because of unexpected injuries. Senga's on his way back. Manaea's on his way back. I know that the reinforcements are on the way. But you're sort of talking about all of these guys, right? Blackburn and McGill on the IL with whatever the hell they're saying is going on with those two. In essence, they suck. At some point, you have a ton of roster spots here, injured or not, being taken up by guys who are just not productive for your team. I think the Mets are going to be, I would hope, aggressive pitching wise at the deadline because, like you said, this cannot continue. If you intend to play deep into the season and make a deep postseason run, in particular when Clay Holmes isn't going to last all the way through, not to mention Senga has been injury prone at times. Manaya has got these chips or whatever in his elbow. He has to have off-season surgery. He's shaky at best. I mean, he's saying that he feels good now, and I hope that continues, but I don't know if that'll be the case in October. You have enough pitching liabilities that you have to go out there, I think, if you're the Mets, and get at least 1 to 2 reliable starting pitching options. I agree with you that it seems like before the deadline, right? See what Sproat or McLean can give you, because then you're telling yourself you're learning more about them and you're learning more about their trade value if you're looking to move them. So to me, all of the Mets' decision making and David Stern's decision making surrounding the starting pitchers hasn't made much sense because, like you said, it hasn't been very aggressive. It hasn't been the way a big market New York team should operate. And we've seen Stearns, turn the corner post Wilpon era and for the most part operate that way. But something about this starting pitching and musical chairs just hasn't given fans, I think, a good feeling.
Loved musical chairs in elementary school. Great game, fun game. This is the big leagues. We're not in elementary school anymore. Love Duck, Duck, Goose. Love musical chairs. Loved green eggs and ham. All great times. But those times were in the past. And times to throw slop out there are in the past. That is the old Mets regime. And you're right, it has been a month, and it feels like it's happened at points of the whole season. Remember Minnesota, they threw Hageman out there. And listen, I think it's good. And these guys haven't been terrible. In the end, the offense also needs to do more. Like yesterday, infuriating. Peterson pulled. I thought they should have kept him in. That was stupid. You set it up. Gunnar Henderson, bing, bang, boom, home run. Ryan Oren walks. Oh, look, you sent up your two best players because you put a righty in. All it took was leaving Peterson in. That's a story for another day with Mendoza. I don't think Mendoza should be fired, but he hasn't had as good of a year as a manager as last year. He hasn't had that pixie dust when the Midas touch that he had last year. But yeah, I need to see some of these guys. And listen, I get their thought of we don't want to start the clock early because it might hurt them in trade, and we don't want them to get rocked in the big leagues, and that also hurts a trade. But you're fighting for a championship. And to the fan base, when you throw a Waddell and you throw a Hageman, it reeks of punt. It reeks of Pat McAfee and punting. It reeks of just it's fourth down and we're throwing a Hail Mary with this guy. Let's go down with the prospects and not with the 37th man on the roster. That's my issue, is that I'd rather lose with Sproat getting rocked, with Tom getting rocked, with McLean getting rocked. Three guys that have also deserved a spot. If you're talking about pitching on the minor league level and having success, and I talked about it with my old co-host last week, Nelson Figueroa, who had the best numbers in AAA when he was in AAA, and then they were calling up everyone and their mother over him while he was rocking, and that's how McLean's feeling. McLean's looking around. It's that gif of Will Smith in the living room alone. Everyone's moved out of the house, and he's looking around. No one's there, and he's the only one left. And that's what it feels like when he's shutouts every week. And now Sproat 3 straight times. So it's very frustrating to watch. Jake Brown, Ashley Wenskosky, a couple more minutes here on Mets Daily. Become a Mets Daily Insider for just $5 a month. Click join below. Edward Cabrera is a name that's come up on the Marlins. I'm not that intrigued by him, but if we want to look at starting pitching, he has a 3.33 ERA. He's had a good year, 15 starts. He's 27 years old. Listen, Sandy Alcantara has been the name all year, but he has just been getting shelled left and right. I would not feel comfortable getting him. Are there names, either if it's Cabrera or someone else, that you're intrigued by? I think everyone, we mentioned Chapman and Duran, but the Red Sox are red hot right now, where I don't know if the Red Sox are going to be sellers. What do you think at the deadline? We know the position, starter, reliever, kind of center fielder as the big three. Is there any names that excite you more than others that you think are realistic that the Mets can go after?
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting debate, like you just said, right? Alcantara has been the name all year long. Obviously, he's the biggest one that sort of pops off the page that you might think has the highest ceiling, has the most potential if the Mets were to get him. But like you said, he has been nothing special in the last few weeks. I think if you're the Mets, I don't know. You mentioned Luis Severino earlier from the A's. I mean, maybe Severino in a package with the catcher, Shea Langelier, as you mentioned. But I don't know. Severino also, right, he was a good clubhouse guy last year. He was decent enough on the mound. But at the end of the day, he's also, 36, 37? He's not getting any younger. So I don't know if that would be my first choice either. I don't know. I think the Mets really need to prioritize pitching, like we've been talking about, and I think there's enough starting pitching that's going to be moved at the deadline that they should be able to find two guys that they're intrigued by that are not Paul Blackburn and Tyler McGill.
Yeah, Severino 31. So I thought he was a little bit older too, but
Oh,
he's still, but again, 80 ERA at home. And listen, I get it. That ballpark's a minor league park. It's tough to pitch in, but those splits are pretty damning. But again, that's a lot of money, and the A's are going to have to stomach some of that. I don't know if the Mets are going to want to stomach all the money that Severino's owed. So that's going to be where that deal becomes intriguing, and where you could try to ask for Langoliers, or even the other catcher. Austin Wins, their backup, is definitely available. He's not as good. He's a veteran, but he's better than, I think, hitting wise than Terens and Sanger have been. So Wins is another name, just not as exciting as Langoliers. But Buxton, another name that's brought up. My issue with Buxton, and I looked through his career yesterday, out of 10 or 11 years, he has played over 100 games in 2 of them. He's never played a full season. He played 140 and 102. Otherwise, always under 100 games. The guy is an injury waiting to happen. He got hurt the other day getting hit by a pitch. That a 10-year longevity rate of never staying healthy is a pretty damn good sample size, Ashley. That Buxton scares me a little bit, but it's something you have to consider, because when that guy plays, he's one of the best hitting center fielders in the sport. And you got to think about names that will make a difference in this lineup. Luis Robert Jr. does not make a difference. He has been dreadful. I don't think a change of scenery is automatically turning him back into that 30-homer guy. Cedric Mullins is a nice player. I don't think Cedric Mullins moves the needle enough for this team. And Tyrone Taylor's like 3 for his last 50. You can't keep playing him in center. McNeil's been fine, but at sometimes he's going to play second. And you also would like a better defensive center fielder and someone that can hit for power. You would love a guy that ends the year with 25 or 30 homers playing center field for the Mets.
yeah. I think you look at position player wise, right? You mentioned obviously Jarren Duran would be the dream, but I don't know if the Red Sox are going to sell now since they're playing better. You also talked about catcher, a guy who pops off the page. Well, maybe doesn't pop off the page, but might be some good depth there if you're not sold on Alvarez. What about Hunter Goodman from the Rockies? He's been hitting for average this year. He's been having a decent year.
The issue
Again,
is he's so cheap for the Rockies. I don't know why they would. He's all they got. That's my.
I know.
I
know, and he doesn't. Does he move the needle in a way that you're like, all right, we're gonna go to the World Series now in this lineup?
Moves the needle. He's having a great year. The Rockies are poverty, and he's so cheap for them and the face of their team right now. I would love it. Believe me. Give me him and Jake Bird, and we'll go Sproat, Santucci, and Vientos. How about that? Do they say no?
I mean, if you're the Rockies for that package, I'd do it. Sure.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Like you said, yeah, he is all they got right now, and they're the Rockies. So I'm not sure how motivated they're going to be to move him. But
yeah, I mean, he's the number one name, I think, catching wise, we all want. We go to the Rockies and Orioles and just pick apart their rosters.
Exactly.
And that's the other issue right now. Everyone's like, make a trade today. Everyone is in it. Like, even the Royals under 500 are still in the wild card hunt. The Red Sox now are in a wild card spot. So as much as Red Sox fans were ready to quit on the team, now they're playing the best baseball of anyone right now of the last couple of weeks. So you never know what a trade could do to a team. Everyone thought the Red Sox were finished and they were going to be seller. But American League is wide open, and that's what hurts because, the name I talked about, Seth Lugo, if the Royals are still in it or the Royals believe that they could make the playoffs, they might not want to trade Lugo even though he's a rental. I do think he gets moved, though. So we'll find out here after. I think there will be a move or a couple of moves during the All-Star break here. I think a couple of relievers. Baker from the Orioles, who I thought the Mets would be a target for. They rocked him the other night. He just got moved to the Rays, so he goes within the division. Interesting to see the interdivision trades. I don't think the Mets, the only team the Mets in the division I think will make a move with is probably the Marlins. I don't see the Braves or Phillies wanting to do business with the Mets or the Nationals, really. Maybe like a Finnegan, but we'll see. I mean, this team, it's a Noah's Ark. You need one of everything, two of everything. You need a lot of pieces. And here's the thing, and why we believe. Like, we just saw this team early to mid-June, Ash, be the best team in baseball. They had the best record in baseball. We saw this team 2 wins from a pennant. We know what money this team has now. We think that they're in a win-now mode. They cannot dip their foot in. They got to go to the deep end with the Sharks. Like, they can't dip their foot in and say, we're going to trade for Luis Robert, Gregory Soto from the Orioles, and Edward Cabrera. That doesn't excite me. Those three moves would not move the needle enough. A Buxton or Duran, a Chapman, and maybe a Mitch Keller, that might intrigue me. Those are kind of big boy moves that would intrigue me. But you can't go for these kind of players who you think a change of scenery will change them, or they've had a few rough months, but they'll come here and be good. They got to be proven baseball players, because we've had enough of these guys who had a cup of coffee and did something, and they started and they get rocked. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Castillo they traded for from the Diamondbacks. Like, all these guys we just mentioned. We need sharks. We need hyenas. We don't need guppies.
No, I agree. I think it's obviously win now mode, right? You see what happened last year. You that was so unexpected, but you fall just short. And then it's like, all right, how can we make this roster significantly better heading into this season? Obviously, they got Soto. You know the rest. They seem like they made the splashy move to send it over the edge. Unfortunately, they've been a little wrecked by injuries this year. You have to adjust to that if you're David Stearns. We had Keith Rad on our podcast last week, which is so interesting to talk to a guy that's around the team every single day as the radio voice alongside Howie Rose. And he said, quote, I believe fully healthy with Kodai Senga and with Sean Manaea, this Mets team can go to and win the World Series. But that's the caveat, right? Fully healthy. We've been talking about it all show. You just have so many pieces on this roster that seem like they are, zero spots production-wise. You have a lot of dead weight on this roster, and the dead weight really needs to get cut and sloughed off by the deadline. And David Stearns needs to make some moves to adjust to that.
I know about dead weight. I got a lot of dead weight on my belly right now, and it needs to go away. And the Mets have their own dead weight. But yeah, Keith's a great guy. Keith, a friend of the program, always does a good job. Nice guy. Listen, he's right. And you mentioned Manaea earlier. I mean, I don't dig too far into rehab starts. He hasn't been as bad as Montas was in rehab starts. But the bone chips thing and the elbow is an issue. The fact that he's piggybacking in his first start. Now, I get it because the All-Star break, those guys could just start right after the All-Star break once again. The fact that he's in play and he's in the conversation, the delay on this makes me feel like I don't know what I'm going to expect out of Sean Manaea. Now, I expect Senga to be good. I think Senga, that was a calf injury, wasn't an arm thing. I'm not terribly worried about him. But the way they're talking about Manaea, this new injury feels like, all right, we're going to throw him out there, hope it works. He changed his arm slot last year. He had a good second half, pretty good playoffs outside of the last start. I think we all loved Sean Manaea and what he brings to the clubhouse. Everyone loves him. He hangs out with Lindor and his family. They're at the Shakira concert with Mendoza and the Lindors. It's a family affair, but we need 7 strong innings. There's no family on the mound. It's just you, brother. Your kids aren't there. Your wife, Lindor's not there. It's all you. It's all that elbow, the oblique, everything else. He's got to hold up here, and he's got to hold up through October because the Mets are looking, they're going to make the playoffs. I'd be shocked if they didn't even get a wild card spot. They're going to make the playoffs. Like we're worried about this team, but we full and well know this team should make the playoffs. Knock on wood here. And you're expecting game 1 or game 2 and 3 starter if you go out and get an ace to be Senga Manaea. These are your honchos. They're here. They arrived tonight. Kansas City. Fuck Kansas City. Fuck the Royals. 2015, I was the last person in that stadium leaving the World Series. They said, it's time to go. I said, why do I need to go? There's no event here for the next couple months except for the circus in the parking lot next month. There's nothing. I could stay. Let me cry in peace. So the Royals have given me bad memories from the 2015 World Series. So this weekend always is personal with the Royals. Lucas Duda, the throw home. We've had nightmares. So we get to see that this weekend. Can Manaea and Senga, quote-unquote, save this rotation that has been in shambles? We'll see. Well, Mets-Royals, I think we win 2 out of 3. I think we win at least Senga Day, and we win the Holmes-Manaea Sunday. Montas tomorrow, you just never know what you're going to get out of Frankie. But let's say 2 out of 3, Ashley.
I keep forgetting that Frankie Montas is still in this rotation because I think that's something that I'm cognitively disassociating from. I can't even deal with it, so my brain forgets about it. Yeah, I agree. You got to go into Kansas City and at least get a little momentum back before the All-Star break, right? Going into this week, Baltimore and Kansas City, coming off winning 2 straight series, taking the series against the Yankees. It was like, all right, this is a good opportunity to go into the All-Star break with at least some momentum. You saw what happened in Baltimore. Let's just try to forget about that. move on, take 2 out of 3 in Kansas City. Like you said, you got 2 of your top starters returning, and we'll see what Mania can give us. I mean, I think we will know after this weekend whether or not Mania has the stamina to run with this team down the stretch.
Yeah, and you come back out of the break, you're going to have Mania, Senga, hopefully fully locked and loaded, assuming they're healthy out of the first start. And then you get Brooks Raley back, who I think is going to be monumental for this team because Ryan Stanek, I don't care what he said about his first half. It wasn't a good first half for him. And I understand some outings, make the ERA implode when you're a reliever if you give up a few runs. But that was not a good half from Ryan Stanek. It's how he's looked in the regular season the last few years, to be honest. He's been a guy who's a 4.5 ERA, which is not going to cut it if you're going to be a setup man. But I expect a guy like Raley to have come in that spot. And Raley's rehab month, his clock should run out, I believe, next Friday. So I expect Raley against the Reds next weekend to be part of the Mets bullpen. And that is a critical piece. I mean, this is a guy with like a 2 ERA when he's healthy, when he's on. And, who is a real major league lefty. He's not Brandon Waddell. He is a legit major league lefty that was a under-the-radar signing, but they need more. You get Raley. I know we'll call it trade deadline acquisition, but you still need to get another reliever, another arm. But I do think that Friday after the break, you get David Wright day on Saturday, his number retired. A special weekend in Queens. You hope, you take care of business this week, take the break, get Soto the 4 days off since he won't be playing and making that extra $100,000 that he so badly needed. Donate that to the Jake Brown Radio Foundation here. Would love that to underprivileged children with large bellies. Let's do that. But, I think that weekend coming out of the break could be big. I do think they're going to make a trade All-Star break. Raley, Senga, Mania. So let's see if guys coming back do help. But with that, guys go down like Winker. I mean, Jesse Winker, I don't know what he's doing, man. I don't think he's working out enough maybe. Like to hurt your back swinging a bat right after you just were on the IL for 2 months for an oblique. Does he have a training issue? What is he doing?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Winker. I agree with you that this team obviously needs some life injected into it. And it seems like, whatever moves they make at the deadline, the All-Star break is the perfect opportunity to do that. We'll see. We'll see if it works, right? We'll see if I think this team, with all that's been going on in the last month, I mean, they're like 8-17 in the last month. So this hasn't just been like a 2-week slide. It's turned into a trend, turned into a pattern here in the months of June and July. This team could use a little mental reset. And, 4 of them are going to Atlanta for the All-Star game, but the rest of them get a nice, cool, crisp 4 days off, including Juan Soto. So we will hope that they return energized and ready to go.
Including us. We need the off days. Ashley WENSKOSKI, Ashley Wentz TV, CNY Central sports anchor reporter up in Syracuse, and the co-host of the Why Am I Mets Fan podcast with Samantha Cross. And check that out on YouTube and subscribe to their show. Ashley, always good to do our little, I feel like it's once every 6 weeks when you're not in Canada check-in or traveling the globe. Appreciate you coming on. Make sure you smash that thumbs up on the video, subscribe, become an insider, follow Ash. Ash, enjoy your All-Star break as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's go Mets. Beat the Royals, please. Save the season. Peace.